Hi, my name's Lex. This is the painting I'm working on today. It's the Michael Jordan Nike Air sneakers, and I do it in acrylic paint. They're 6 inches by 6 inches, the box is. It's a wood box, and I make small art. That's what my series is called, Make It Small. And here I make a mistake. I did not look what direction I needed to go in, and I put the hardware in the wrong way. So it's a good idea to check which direction your painting is going in before you do the hardware. Have fun watching. I sketch with this brilliant blue paint. It's just a lot easier so you don't leave any marks from the pencil marks on the this is wood actually that I'm working on right now, not canvas, but I like working on wood. It's like a little small box. And in this little series, I'm working on shoes, and I just lightly sketch everything out. The best part is if it doesn't work out, you just paint right over it. And the blue just sort of goes into the background anyhow because it's part of my palette. So I just pick a color that's on the light side that I can see when I'm painting, and then I go from there. So I just, put in the basic idea of what it's going to be like in the painting. So if I don't like, for instance, the layout, or if something doesn't come out proportionally correct, I just sort of sketch right over it too. To keep everything perfect, I just lightly sketch it in so you can see it's just sort of like a watered down paint. And in my palette today, I'm using golden white, which is the thicker part of this paint, and brilliant light purple, which is the lavender color, and Prussian blue, I don't even know how to say it, but that's what I'm using for the darkest blue. And that bright green is a permanent green light. I love that color. And then I'm also using cadmium yellow, which I generally always have in my palette, and the brilliant blue, which is what I'm sketching, and then cadmium red. I always generally have that in my palette. Cadmium orange deep hue, which is that bright orange, and then cadmium yellow, and always Payne's gray. If I'm going to use a black color, I don't really use black. I use Payne's gray, unless it's like a real graphic design. Like this is sort of graphic-ish. I could really go and use black in it, but I chose not to. A lot of my colors wet, so what I'll do is I'll lay in this color, for instance, using the cad red with a little bit of yellow, and then I mix the white in. So I like to have it moving when it's very wet, and then add, like for instance, the white into the colors. It looks like I'm messing up the palette by just dipping into the white, but I can pretty much keep it fairly neat. When I'm painting on my own without a camera watching me, I don't use this small of a palette, so my colors are pretty far apart. But I like to keep things pretty tight, and I really enjoy when I can make this little corner move with the white on there, that little highlight that's already put into the painting. The white is nice and thick, so it adds a good solid layer, even though I'll have to go back several times to get it nice and clean. I love adding these little red highlights. It's my favorite part of painting, is going over and over, trying to give it a nice layered effect. The blue, when I add this on, it gives the pants wrapping around the other side a nice look too. It's fun. I like the layering part. I enjoy every part of painting, even the blocking out, which is the part that's not as fun as all the details, but has to be done, and I like to make it neat all around. And then so when you look at the painting, it's finished and in line, I line up as best I can on both sides, or all sides I should say. The white, I'm mixing the dark blue with a little bit of cadmium red. It gives it just a little different color. And then I'm going to use that just to start carving in the bottom of the sneaker, and then also right into the main sneaker. I'll use the blue and just start edging up to it so that I paint in the shape better. So it's sort of like chipping away at the shape with the color. And it just takes a little time, but that's, I think the fun part for me is the detailing like this, where I just start to slowly make the color become, the background become the actual part that defines the sneaker itself, and taking my time just to edge it so I can get a clear, nice shape there as well. And I think that's what makes painting fun, is just these little tiny things, the smallest little things. And just right here, just adding the little wash. It just takes time to build the color up slowly but surely, and I'm going around the lace. And just making sure I get the sides painted in nicely as well. I needed to bring the horizon line up further, so I'm just doing that right now. Bringing it to just where the jeans start with the sneaker, and adding the cadmium yellow with a little white in it for the background. That's just the beginning. I'll do is just lay this out. It just adds a nice brightness that I need. And then adding that bright green in while it's still very wet, the paint of the cadmium yellow. I don't mind that it's messy, because that's what happens right in this beginning part. Painting the label on the Jordans, so the Nike label. I'm just using the Payne's Gray. I don't have the black here. I could have used black, but I just favor the Payne's Gray. I think because it has a bit of blue in it, and it will pick up my other colors, whereas the black would just sit more on its own. And I like to use the Payne's Gray. It's really a really cool color, and as I mentioned, I use it a lot in my work. Lavender is such a great color. What it does is adds the toe area, the basis of my collars that will go on top of it. So instead of having to try to add this later, what I do is I add the lavender throughout. This is all intuitive. I don't sit there and think what colors I'm going to use. I did put the palette out, assuming I would put the lavender somewhere. And then what I think it does for me is then I can put the other colors on top of it that will make the shading. And then it also brings out the other colors, such as the red and the blue. Even that bright green pops even more because of the lavender. I will admit the lace part is going to be a little tedious. I don't mind it if I just take it by shapes. That's what I usually do when something, all my work is by shapes, but especially something like the laces, I'll just pick areas and put a little piece and then just follow it. I look at the picture, of course, but I also just inference a lot of what I do. So if something crisscrosses over each other, then I'm fine with that too. It just as long as it looks like laces, and the point of the picture is still made. And then I just keep going back and forth to add the color. I like these little tiny details, like adding line work. That's fun, especially. I enjoy that part the best. All the other stuff you have to do to get the painting done. I like the way this yellow looks. It's nice and creamy, and it pops out the red really well, but I'd have to put it on one way or the other because it belongs on the actual sneaker. So I don't really know much about Jordans other than I know they were expensive. But I do like the shapes. I like the way the sneaker looks in general. It's fun to paint. I just like adding chunks of color too. So this adds like a nice little fun blocking of color. So the yellow going on the lavender looks cool too. And I'll just keep going around and adding the yellow and just making the painting interesting. You know, I don't even know what I'm gonna paint from painting to painting. I just look for things that catch my eye and that I'll stay with, and of course all my patterns. Adding a deeper tone of the red, the cadmium red, probably mixed with a little bit of the cadmium yellow. What I like is that build up where it gets really dark. It adds a nice contrast with the other shades of the orange color, red color that kind of looks like a faded orange. And then I just will back up the color against the light and the darker. You can see the light in the dark, and that curve that's fun to do. So it's funny that I am painting this series of small paintings. These are like all 6 inches by 6 inches. My series is make it small. Because I was a mural artist, everything was so large, and painting this little it might have been just a sample painting to show somebody, but I never painted this small. But I like finishing everything to, even though it's more abstract, I like to finish with the little details of like curves and dark colors against the light colors, and that adds the interest in the painting. And then a little going back and forth on the colors as well. Earlier I added the little dashes on the foreground. Now I'm adding the extra bright blue on the jeans to give the creases in the denim near the Jordans. I think the blue on top of the dark blue adds a nice punch to the painting, which it needed on the top because it was starting to be lost a little bit. So just adding the little blue touches, and then going into where the laces are will also bring out brightness in the laces. That's why I'm doing it with the blue. And then I'll go back and darken the red again. Earlier, add the little blue dashes on the foreground to give it a little texture. I'll go over that, and that'll be under my pattern. Now I'm just adding a darker bit of red all around the edge. That way it gives the other colors more volume to make the toe stick out more, the toe of the shoe. And then, just going around and looking for anything extra to add to the details. I like this part a lot. This is my favorite part, is adding what makes the shoe look like somebody actually is wearing it. Bending it a little bit with the colors, and just keep going back and forth and adding more and more colors, or tones I should say, because it's really a variation of the reds. So I'll continue to do that. Earlier, it's like the faded red color that's going to go on the light blue and the purple. It does help show where the sneaker bends. So right now it doesn't make sense, but it will. And when I edit, I try to edit this down so that I'm only showing what I think is helpful to the painting. It's a 6-hour painting. That even at 6 inches by 6 inches, it still takes up 6 hours. It's just a lot of layering and taking time to make sure I say what I want to say in the painting, I guess. And so I do take the time to edit out a lot of things that aren't, I think, important. But right here, I'm adding lines and defining the shape of the sneaker. So I felt like that was important. And the little line work too, I think, because of the fact that it sort of goes with my work in the sense that I try to abstract it as best I can with adding detail, because I think the detail also makes the painting interesting, where the little stitching or a line, and that I can't forget in the painting. So again, I try to make it so that I'm not overly showing too much in the video and making them too long. I add the light blue dots first, and it gives it like an airy little feeling to this part. And then after the light blue goes the darker blue, and they'll sit right on top of each of the light blue. So I think it gives it a nice little detail. And again, this is what makes me happy, these little tiny details. The orange circles, it's the bright orange. What I do is I just continue to add one circle right after the other until I fill the whole foreground. And you can see over that light blue that I made that faded pattern at first, and I muted it. And what I do is then I take the white, full obvious strength, I'm not adding anything to it, and just add a little white dot right in the center of each of the orange circles, so that adds to the pattern. So this will go throughout the whole foreground as well. The orange I'm adding the white circles for the background. Now this is just the second layer, so it'll be sort of pushed back as well, but I have to do it. And then once I finish up the white, I move on to making the larger purplish blue circles that would go over the orange and white ones that were on the lighter blue background. So that's in the foreground, and just continue making the circles, all different shapes. So I should say they're not large blue. Some of them are smaller. I just fill the area. I started this technique many years ago, just drawing these or painting the lines on top of the pattern that I already put down first. If you recall, I did the blue like dash pattern and then put the orange circles on top of the dash pattern, and then the white dots inside of the orange circles, then the darker blue circles on top of everything. Now I'm splitting it with the white lines that are, just thinly painted, going in different angles. I'm not really sure when I came up with this, but many years ago, this pattern idea of splitting the backgrounds. Sometimes I leave them not complicated, but on the most part, everything gets split up and then more patterns put on them. I don't really plan anything, so it's whatever comes out of my brain, I guess. And it does bring out the colors for me, because then I can add more color, which is my favorite thing to do anyhow. But I like doing the line work. It's a lot of fun. It can be a challenging one to stop, but I kind of like always know when to do that. And then like now adding the circles on top of the lines gives this yet another pattern. And then what I think it forces you to do is to look beyond all of it, to keep looking downward. And that's a little different than most paintings, where you would keep the sneakers the most important part of the creation, but I think I like it all. Now I'm outlining the entire pair of Jordans with the blue line. I thicken it enough so you can see that the sneakers are now being more important than just the outlines or the pattern design. It just takes time, again, adding these little details, and it's just stepping back or not painting for a day. Although I did do this entire painting in 5 hours, sitting down, with a couple minor breaks, but I just sat and painted. I don't mind painting for 5 hours straight. It's actually very fun, but when you get super detailed like this, if you don't step away and really look at it, I think you miss things that could be done if I spent the time looking at it with fresh eyes and then going back and doing whatever I feel like has to be done to finish up the painting. Now I'm adding water-based polyurethane onto the wood box, or I should say the Jordan painting. When I wasn't on camera, I did go and add those orange circles inside the white circles on the foreground, and I added orange circles also into the white circles that were on the background. And sometimes I do that off camera. I just continue to paint when I see something, and then I forgot to add it, as well as the underneath the shading underneath the Jordans are on the side. Using a craft glue to put the paper down on the wood box, on the Jordan box. So I just put a couple of beads of the glue all around. I apologize for being off camera. I didn't realize that part of it was not showing. So I just go around a couple of times, and then I take my finger. I guess you could take a piece of paper and smooth out the glue to the edges, but I just use my finger or fingers, and then add the craft paper to the backing and smooth it out the best you can. I think what happens with adding these little touches is that it finishes off the painting, and it's ready. If you sell it or gift it or keep it, that it's ready to be hung, and it looks nice when you turn it, to show the backing is important to me, as the front in the presentation. So this just comes off of a craft roll. It's a small craft roll. You can get a larger and also thicker than this paper, but this works. I also use it to paint on. Here I'm just tearing a piece of sandpaper. I think that's like a 80 grit, maybe 120, I'm not really sure, but it's a very fine sandpaper. So I just sand all the edges, And what that does is it neatly lifts off the paper, so you just sort of push it off. And if you need to sand more, you just do. And it comes off pretty well. And if you use a razor blade, I think sometimes what you do is you cut into the edge. Here I'm just adding a little extra glue to finish off everything. Now to add the hardware, this is a sawtooth hanger. It has little teeth and there's a center point, so you put that in the middle, you measure the distance, it's 6 inches, so 3 inches in the center. Then I take that little nail and I punch it, and then it makes it easier for me to get the screw through it. And of course I did not look to see what direction the painting had to go in, so now I have holes in there from where I had to take it apart. I'll take the paper off and then do it again later, so I don't have the mess in the back. But here we are with the Jordans done, and it's all ready to hang. I paired the Jordans with the boots from last week, so if you want to see that video, check it out. Also, like and subscribe. Thank you.